The sound of the baby's wailing filled the tiny apartment in Cedar Grove, Ohio. Ashley, just 3 months old, shrieked in her crib, while her twin sister Aubrey kicked and cried beside her. But their mother, Vanessa, didn't flinch. Her face was cold, her jaw clenched with fury. She threw a handful of clothes into a duffel bag and zipped it shut with a violent jerk. "Vanessa, please," said Mark Thompson, her husband, in a trembling voice. He stood helplessly by the door, watching the woman he loved pack up their life. "The girls need you. They're crying." Vanessa turned to him, her eyes sharp as ice. "They're not my problem anymore. I'm done with this life. If not for me, then stay for the sake of the girls," Mark pleaded. "God gave them to us. They're our daughters." Vanessa laughed bitterly. "I didn't sign up for this kind of misery. A one-bedroom apartment? Cheap groceries? You lost your job and now I have to suffer for it? I'm out. Don't come looking for me. And those babies? Do what you want with them. Frankly, I don't care if they live or die." She grabbed her bag and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The sound echoed through the apartment like a gunshot. For a few moments, Mark just stood there. Then he dropped to the floor beside the crib and picked up his daughters. He cradled one in each arm, whispering, "It's okay, Daddy's here." They kept crying, but slowly, his rocking soothed them. Mark had once been a warehouse supervisor. After the company closed due to downsizing, job opportunities dried up. Vanessa's love had dried up with it. But holding his daughters in his arms, he made a silent vow. "I may not have money," he murmured, "but I promise I'll be the best father this world has ever seen." The next morning brought cold cereal, no milk, and 2 hungry babies. Desperation clawed at Mark's gut. He strapped the twins to his chest using an old baby carrier and headed to the local farmer's market. There, he borrowed an old wheelbarrow from a friend and began offering to carry people's groceries. Some folks gave him strange looks. A man with twins strapped to his chest, pushing 50-pound sacks of potatoes, wasn't a common sight in Cedar Grove. One elderly woman paused. "You're doing God's work, son," she said, pressing a $5 bill into his palm. "For the babies." But not everyone was kind. A woman in a flashy SUV shouted, "Maybe next time think before having kids you can't feed." Mark said nothing. He just kept pushing one sack at a time for Ashley and Aubrey. That evening, after buying formula and diapers from the local pharmacy, Mark returned to the apartment exhausted but fulfilled. Days turned into weeks. Rain or shine, he pushed that wheelbarrow with his girls nestled against him. Then came Miss Edna. She was in her 70s, lived down the hall, and had a heart big enough to fill the whole building. One morning, she stopped him. "Let me watch the girls today. You can't keep hauling produce with them tied to your chest." Mark hesitated. "I can't pay you. Did I ask for pay?"
"Go on now."
"I'll keep them safe."
And she did.
Every day, she fed them, bathed them, and rocked them to sleep. Mark returned each evening to find his girls happy in her arms. In time, Ashley and Aubrey grew up knowing 2 constants, their daddy and Miss Edna, who became their mom Edna. The girls grew into kind, smart teenagers. Mark worked extra shifts, took on landscaping gigs, and even shoveled snow in the winters to afford their school needs. Ashley and Aubrey studied hard, determined not to let their father down. At 18, they graduated with honors. Their SAT scores were stellar. Both were accepted into a prestigious pre-med program at Ohio State University. The day they brought home their acceptance letters, Mark beamed with pride. "My girls, future doctors. I can finally walk around like a king." But later that night, alone in his room, Mark stared at the ceiling in silence. The truth was brutal. He didn't even have enough in savings to send one of them to college. He clenched his jaw. "I won't let money stop them. I'll do whatever it takes." The next morning, Mark left the house early. This time, he didn't bring the wheelbarrow. He walked to the wealthy part of town, knocking on doors, offering to work as a live-in helper, janitor, anything in exchange for help with tuition. He got rejected 6 times. "I'm not paying med school for a stranger," one businessman scoffed. Another just slammed the door. Mark returned home drained. That night, He called his daughters into his room. "I'm sorry," he said, barely able to speak. "I promised I'd send you to college, but I can't." Ashley squeezed his hand. "Dad, there's nothing to be sorry for. You've done everything. We love you no matter what." That night, while Mark cried softly in prayer, Ashley and Aubrey listened from the hallway, their own pillows soaked in silent tears. The next morning, Ashley and Aubrey made a decision. They walked into the university registrar's office and deferred their admission for 1 year. Then they hit the pavement, job hunting together. After days of rejections, a family-owned diner on Main Street gave them a shot. They were hired to bus tables and serve customers. They worked with dignity and cheer, always polite, always grateful. Their charm earned them generous tips. Men tried to flirt, some even offered money for favors, but the twins stayed rooted in the values their father had instilled in them. Every night, they counted their tips, set aside savings, and prayed with Mark. 7 months later, they had saved enough to rent a tiny space on the edge of downtown. Using the recipes they had learned from Mom Edna and their experience at the diner, they opened Twin Flames Deli. Clean, warm, and inviting. They promoted it on social media and served food with love. Customers came, stayed, and returned. One Thursday evening, as Ashley was wiping down the last table, she spotted something under the booth. "Aubrey, someone left this." It was a sleek black briefcase. Inside, legal documents and a stack of $100 bills. They locked it in their safe overnight. When Mark saw it, he nodded. "You did the right thing. Someone will come back for it." And someone did. The next morning, a black Tesla pulled up. A sharply dressed man stepped out, eyes scanning. "Did anyone turn in a briefcase?" Ashley handed it to him, without hesitation. He took it, mumbled, "Thanks," and drove off. Aubrey blinked. "No tip? Not even a thank you?" Ashley laughed. "I guess not everyone believes in rewards." But 3 hours later, the man returned. "My name's Preston Hale. That briefcase contained every detail of a multi-million-dollar merger and my will. If it had gotten lost," he looked around the deli. "This is yours." They nodded. "Not anymore," he said, handing them a deed. "That building on Lincoln Avenue? It's yours now. Move your restaurant there. You earned it." The new restaurant on Lincoln Avenue was everything they had dreamed of. Spacious, modern, and bustling with customers. Ashley and Aubrey expanded their menu, hired a small team, and transformed the place into one of Cedar Grove's favorite spots. Even Mark had to admit, it felt surreal. He visited often, helping out with deliveries or simply watching his daughters thrive. Life was finally peaceful until one rainy afternoon when a woman in her 40s walked into the restaurant, drenched and desperate. "Can I speak to the manager? I'll do anything, wash dishes, clean floors, just please."
I need a job.
One of the hostesses brought her to the back where Ashley and Aubrey were prepping a new order. The twins looked up, surprised by her urgency, and yet, there was something strangely familiar about her. Her name was Vanessa. They didn't recognize her, but Mark did. Later that evening, he stopped by and saw her scrubbing dishes in the kitchen. His face paled. "Girls," he said calmly after pulling them aside. "The new dishwasher. She's your mother." The silence that followed was long and cold. "What?" Ashley whispered. "It's her. After she left, I burned all the pictures. You've never seen her face, but I'd never forget." The next day, Ashley confronted Vanessa. "You abandoned us," she said, holding back tears. "You left Dad when we were 3 months old. Why are you here now?" Vanessa bowed her head. "I was young.
Selfish.
I've made a lot of mistakes. I was married twice after I left. None of it worked out. I have nothing. I just want a chance to start over." Aubrey's heart ached with conflict, but she placed a gentle hand on her sister's shoulder. "Maybe we let her stay. Just as an employee." Ashley's voice cracked.
Fine.
"But she's not our mother. Mom Edna is." Vanessa nodded quietly, accepting the terms. For a while, things went smoothly. Vanessa worked hard, seemed humble, and earned the trust of a few employees. But over time, old habits resurfaced. She barked at staff, showed up late, and whispered bitter things about Mark to customers and coworkers. The warm atmosphere began to fade.
Customers complained.
Workers started quitting. One evening, Ashley and Aubrey sat her down. "We can't let you ruin what we built," Aubrey said gently. "I am your mother," Vanessa snapped. "You treat your lazy father like a king, but make me wash dishes." Ashley stood up, her voice firm. "Don't speak about our father that way. He gave us everything. You gave us nothing." After long discussion, they let her go, but not without compassion. They opened a small coffee stand in her name across town and stocked it for her. It was her chance to stand on her own 2 feet again. With Vanessa gone, the warmth returned. The restaurant thrived. Word of mouth turned into newspaper features and food blogs praising the sisters' story. Eventually, they opened 2 more branches in nearby cities. Mark finally retired. Ashley and Aubrey bought him a small house with a garden and porch swing where he could sip coffee in peace. He spent his days tending flowers and mentoring young fathers who had fallen on hard times. Mom Edna, now in her late 80s, remained their cornerstone. They remodeled her apartment, brought in caregivers, and visited her weekly with home-cooked meals and laughter. They never forgot their roots. One sunny afternoon, Ashley and Aubrey sat on the restaurant's rooftop overlooking the city's skyline. "Do you ever think about med school?" Aubrey asked. Ashley smiled. "Sometimes. But this is what we were meant to do." They both nodded. The deli wasn't just a business. It was their dream come true, a tribute to their father's love and their own resilience. As the years passed, love found its way into their lives. The twins met wonderful partners, good, honest men who appreciated their values. They decided to get married on the same day, side by side. But before that, they had one more surprise for Mark. "Dad," Ashley said, pulling him aside, "you've spent your whole life alone. We want you to be happy. There's someone we think you should meet." It was Marlene, a kind woman who worked at their first restaurant location. She had 2 kids of her own and had become like family. Mark hesitated, but after a few conversations, laughter over shared memories, and long walks, he said yes. And so, on a beautiful spring day, 3 weddings were held in a flower-decorated garden. Ashley and Aubrey in matching gowns. Mark in a sharp gray suit. Mom Edna, glowing with pride, was honored as matriarch of the day. Tears flowed, laughter echoed, and hearts healed. Today, Twin Flames Deli is a franchise with locations across the Midwest. But no matter how successful they become, Ashley and Aubrey never forget the hungry nights, the wheelbarrow, or their father's sacrifice. They speak at schools and shelters, telling their story. They fund scholarships for kids from single-parent homes. And every Sunday, they gather with Mark, Mom Edna, and Marlene for a family dinner, just like they always dreamed. Because in the end, it wasn't money or luck that brought them here. It was love, sacrifice, and the kind of faith that moves mountains.